everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Live It Up, the show where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life you absolutely love. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher Ellingson. Amy will be joining us in a few minutes as we talk about an important health topic that you may not have considered to be even health related, but it affects every one of us every day. Stick around as we talk about the importance of sleep. Are you getting enough sleep? How much is enough? Why don't you get quality sleep? And other questions will be answered. Remember, health is the first wealth, so stick around. As a reminder, if you have questions that you would like us to address on or off the air, you can send them directly to me at fletcher@fletcherellingson.com or visit me at fletcherellingson.com and check out all the cool free resources there for creating a fulfilling life. Okay, let's get to today's email question. It says, Dear Fletcher, I'm working part-time, raising a family, which means getting kids ready for school, driving, picking up after school, taking to lessons, trying to give quality time to my husband, and working on a side business. I feel overwhelmed and as though none of it is getting done well. I feel like I should throw in the towel for this business and go back to full-time. It's way more challenging and overwhelming than I thought it would be. What do you suggest? Angela. Hey Angela, I'm so glad that you took the time to reach out because strong people ask for help. And I hear that you feel overwhelmed with all that you have going on. Overwhelm never feels good, and it is actually a frequent cause of procrastination and inaction. So let's take a look at what it is and what there is to do about it. First off, overwhelm is caused by one or more beliefs about the situation. So let's see if any of these common beliefs and feelings seem familiar to you. Number one, I have too much to do. Number two, there's not enough time. Number three, I have to do it all myself because there isn't anyone to help, or no one will do it the way I want it done. Number four, if I can't get to it all, something will fail or I will fail. So those are the common beliefs behind overwhelm. So let me ask you a question. Do any of those beliefs and feelings feel familiar? These are common. It can lead to frustration, a feeling of being out of control. It can lead to lack of focus. And ultimately, as I mentioned, it can lead to procrastination and inaction, which is not what you want to get to, right? Because you want to get things done. So what can we do? Well, first off, you do just what you did. You notice it. And this much you have done. So it's important to notice it and get it out of your head so you can begin moving out of overwhelm into flow or into the zone of productivity. Next, I want to invite you to do something that may be scary. It will require courage, but it's important to learn to ask for help. Most of us are not practiced at asking for help. We don't want to be an inconvenience or bother. We don't want to be told no, right? We worry about being rejected. But successful people understand that they can't do it all by themselves. They must ask for help or they'll fail. So begin asking for help. And you're going to be surprised to find that there are many people who are willing and love to help. People love being able to be a source of contribution. Next, you may have to learn to say no. N-O. You may have to learn to say no to things. So even things that your kids are involved. Your kids have lots of activities. You may not be able to go to all of or even many of their events. You may not be able to volunteer for things. And you may not be able to help out as much for a while as you focus on your business. But this is a phase. You may have to learn how to say no. This won't be forever, but you're going to have to get practiced at setting boundaries and saying no to some things. And finally, let's talk about time. We all have the same amount of time, right? We all have 24 hours in a day. What you get done today is all you can get done today. And what remains undone, it will be there tomorrow. Think of Jeff Bezos. He didn't build Amazon in a day, nor did he build his spaceship company in a day. He had to ask for a ton of help. He had to say no to many other people and many other activities. And he realized that what doesn't get done today will get done tomorrow. This will take practice, Angela. It'll feel uncomfortable, and if it does, that means you're about to get to new results, which is what you want. Finally, take a few minutes each day to calm your mind and consider all that you have to be grateful for, including the opportunity to pursue your passion amidst your full life. I want you to stay in action, Angela, and persist. You can do this. Okay, up next, we're going to visit with Amy about the importance of sleep. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Live It Up, and we're here with Amy. Today we are talking about sleep. Hey, Amy.
Hello.
We're talking about sleep, and she's going to give us some great information about it. So my first question, what is actually happening when we sleep? Because it seems a bit like a black box when you just go to sleep.
Yeah, I think that most of us just take sleep for granted, and especially when we're younger, because most people sleep really well. But we spend about 1/3 of our lives asleep.
So much.
It's an important topic to pay attention to. And a lot of people think that sleep is a time where we're just dormant, where not much is happening, but it's actually a really active time for our brain. It's one of maybe the most active times that our brain has, where we're processing for information, we're restoring physically, we're having strengthening happen in our body and repairing. And one of the other vital roles is consolidating memories and solidifying memories, where you actually have all this stuff coming at you all day. And then in the night, your brain takes things from like short-term memory, moves them over to long-term memory, where your brain actually works on consolidating our memory. I think we listened to something once where after a night's sleep, you actually do better on a task that you just learned compared to when you just learn it. So sleep is a time that's really important for our brain. We also, our tissues and muscles use it to repair. It also is a time where our body makes hormones. So it's a really, really active time for our body and really important.
Cool. I love it's fun to think of your mind just being super active while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Like it's on its own, doing its own thing.
Yeah, it's like going, yeah.
Hey, so what role does melatonin play in sleep?
Yeah, so sleep, a lot of times we don't think about the fact that the human body has a lot of clocks in it, clocks over our lifetime, and then clocks on a daily basis. There are the circadian rhythm people may have heard about. So one of the many clocks is our sleep clock, and it's controlled mostly by melatonin. And melatonin is released by the pineal gland in your brain. And one of the things that actually stimulates it is darkness. And one of the things that inhibits melatonin or makes it not be released is having it be light outside. And melatonin is what gets really messed up when you go through different time zones, or also people that are shift workers, they have a hard time with their melatonin. And that's why if you are someone who does shift work, it's really important that you need a dark room to sleep in, because that's what our brain is using as a cue to get melatonin released and then get us sleepy.
Just as you were saying that, I was thinking, so that's another reason why it's so important, and you may be getting to this later, but why we don't have the TV on at night or have screens like in our face in bed. Cool.
Right.
Tell me about this, because this is something that happens to me.
Yes.
That weird paralyzed feeling sometimes that I experience, and I feel like I'm awake, but I can't move my body, and I'm trying to call out to you, and it seems so scary, and it seems like it lasts for so long. So tell me about that. What is that? What's going on?
Yeah, it's funny. When I went to Google some stats on it, and one of the things that came up on Google, can you die from sleep paralysis, which made me really laugh, because it does feel scary. So it's called sleep paralysis, and it actually is a thing, and about 4 out of every 10 people experience sleep paralysis, so it's not uncommon. So we spend about 20% of our night in REM sleep, and that's the rapid eye movement sleep, where that's usually when you're dreaming. It's the second half of the night where our brain is going through a lot of activity. You go non-REM sleep as the first sleep, where you're really relaxed. You go into non-REM, and then you go into REM. And so when you're in REM, your body's dreaming, and your brain's dreaming. And just like you've talked about, when you visualize, your brain can't tell fake from real. So if our muscles weren't paralyzed chemically, which is actually what your body does, your brain literally releases a chemical that then shuts down the signaling from your muscles to your brain and vice versa. So you literally are chemically temporarily paralyzed.
That's wild.
Because if you weren't temporarily chemically paralyzed, you would act out everything in your dream. So some people actually have that disorder, and it's a REM sleep disorder, and it's really dangerous, and it actually is really catastrophic and disruptive in their life, and they have to be medicated and all kinds of things, because otherwise they will literally act out their dreams. So it's okay. It usually lasts only seconds to minutes. It may seem like a long time because you're in sleep.
Yeah.
But it goes away, and it's just because you've woken up still coming out of REM, and you're still just temporarily chemically paralyzed.
Oh, that is
That's pretty wild. Yeah.
So we hear a lot in the media about optimal amount of sleep. What is the optimal amount of sleep?
Well, I think it got in the news a little bit more recently, because in 2015, the National Sleep Federation came out with a new recommendation.
The National Sleep Federation.
Yes,
what a great
I know.
title.
Yeah. So what I tell my patients is about 6 to 8 hours, I think is what's average. I'm kind of skipping ahead to the next question, but the new guidelines from 2015 recommends adults aged 18 to 65 get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, and if you're over 65, 7 to 8. So really 7 to 9 is what they found is what most people need, and it provides restorative sleep. I do think there are some people out there that do really well with 6 hours, but in general, you should be getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night.
What's your optimal?
My optimal is 8.
8?
Like
okay.
a solid 8.
All right.
I could go probably 8.5.
Okay.
Yeah, and yours is less than that.
Mine's less than that, yeah. Okay.
So
what are the consequences of not getting enough sleep?
Yeah, so this is kind of a long topic,
Okay.
so we're going to have to take a break in the middle of them, because
Okay.
people might get bored of me talking so much. But there have been a lot of studies with this, and that's why we have the information about how sleep impairs certain things. And a lot of these are associations where we don't know the causation. So it means that lack of sleep is associated with something. We don't really understand the link, but we just know that they're associated. So you just have to take it, like we don't understand a lot of it. But so weight gain is one of the things that they've shown.
What?
Which I know, which seems weird, but having a lack of sleep influences how much you eat and what you eat. And because when you're sleeping, it's a time when your hormones are being regulated, it messes with your hormones, and it makes you feel more hungry, and it tends to actually make you, it has you crave carbohydrates. And so a lot of times what you're looking for is you're looking for energy. Your body's looking for energy, and you may not realize it, that you might be doing that out of a lack of sleep or out of being tired, but your body's looking for some carbs. You want sugar, you want a muffin, you want a bagel, you want a soda, or people do something that has, like Coke, where it has caffeine and sugar, because they're constantly working on lack of sleep. So weight gain has been associated when you're not getting enough sleep. We can talk about that more in a minute. High blood pressure, so people who sleep less than 5 hours a night are at risk of developing high blood pressure. And again, we don't totally understand it, but we think that because when you're sleeping, your body has a chance to regulate your stress hormones, that over a long period of time, your nervous system is not able to manage itself as well. We've talked about this before, where your body's just this amazing machine with all these checks and balances, and it likes you to be in a certain range, and when you don't get that restorative functioning of sleep on your nervous system, it's not going to work as well. And then mental focus and memory retention. We talked about this a bit in the beginning, where part of what sleep affords you and what is happening is you're storing your memories in a long-term manner. So it's kind of filing. Your brain is literally taking what's happened during the day and filing it where it needs to go. So if you don't ever have that deep restorative sleep, your brain never efficiently files all those experiences and memories, and also new knowledge, new skills, all these things that you may be trying to learn. And so you might feel that your mental focus is declined. So number one, you might feel scattered. So number one, in the moment, if you have lack of sleep, you may not be able to retain the information. But then also if you're not having that sleep to help consolidate that information, you may not learn as well or retain information as well.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, it does. And then heart disease. So people who don't get enough sleep are at risk, or higher risk of heart disease, so meaning blockages in the heart arteries. And this is regardless of age, weight, and smoking. So it's an interesting association. We don't, again, totally understand it. but we're thinking it might have something to do with inflammation, which we now know plays a role in heart disease. It might have something to do with the blood pressure and that lack of your nervous system being able to regulate stress. It may be a combination of those things.
Wow, very interesting. I know you have more.
Okay, let's take a quick break so I don't bore the people.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. See you soon. Welcome back to Live It Up. We are here with Amy, and she is giving us the lowdown on sleep. And when we went to the commercial break, we were talking about what are some of the consequences of not getting proper sleep.
Yeah, so the other one that maybe seems a little bit odd, but lack of sleep can increase your risk of diabetes. And the reason that it may do that, we don't totally understand it, but it may have to do with lack of deep sleep, whereas when you go into that deep sleep, your brain actually uses less glucose. There's an alteration in your cortisol and your growth hormone, and so deep sleep affects your ability, or affects how well you use glucose during the night. And also, they've done some studies where adults that slept only 4 to 6 hours a night, their ability to break down glucose was 40% lower than the average adult. So that's like the equivalent to maybe like what an 80-year-old would be able to do with glucose. So if you're only getting 4 to 6 that's 4 hours a night. So 4 hours of sleep a night, then your ability to break down glucose is impaired. And the other thing they did a study on sleep-deprived people, that after they had a high carbohydrate breakfast, their glucose level stayed up for a very long period of time. So there's something to do with glucose breakdown and how your body's able to manage it. And then if you put that along with then you craving it, you could see why it's really a bad combination. So, and then the last thing I was going to talk about is mood. So again, this seems like it might be obvious, but if you're not getting the recommended 7 to 9 hours, it may affect your energy, your feeling of ambition, your motivation. I think we've all felt that way, where when you're really tired, you just don't feel like you can muster up the energy.
Lethargic. So
if you feel it, if you realize, or if you imagine that you like that all the time, it really can impact your life and your ability it makes people more irritable, less enthusiastic. You may even have symptoms of depression and crying easily, being more emotional. All of those can happen just from lack of sleep. So it may even be hard to know what's going on if you're actually having a mood disorder like depression or anxiety or something else, or are you actually just suffering from chronic sleep deprivation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about something, lack of sleep can affect weight gain, and can you address that? How does that happen?
Yeah, so it's a combination of probably related to your glucose metabolism, but also there are two hormones in your body called ghrelin and leptin. They're kind of cool names, and they literally affect your hunger. There's people that have defects in those hormones and they don't ever feel full. So it literally is a thing where you have these certain hormones that affect your hunger level. And so they feel like that maybe during sleep, those hormones appear to be affected and people are more hungry. Also, when you're tired, you make poorer decisions because you don't have as much self-control. You may not be exercising as much. And then also the glucose metabolism, all those things together.
And what were those two?
Oh, leptin and ghrelin.
Leptin and ghrelin.
I know.
They sound like characters from a medieval story. All right, so those are the consequences of not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, which are a lot.
Yeah, and what sort of things affect a good night's sleep?
Yeah, so a couple of things, and people may or may not know this, the things that interfere with good sleep. Number one is alcohol. People frequently think, oh, I'll have a drink, it relaxes me. Well, it does. It can relax you, but that same thing that relaxes you, it actually disturbs your ability to get restorative sleep. So you really do not want to use alcohol as a sleep aid, and if you're going to have alcohol, you really want to have it about 4 hours before you go to bed. Same thing with eating, about 4 hours before you go to bed, because it can impair your ability to fall asleep and have restorative sleep. And then eating, again, if you go to bed on a full stomach, that can be a problem. It actually doesn't have you sleep well. You really want to eat 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed, unlike what you like to do.
I know, I'm smiling because I have been historically a person who loves to eat all day, and even when I'm in bed. And so I have had to correct that.
Yes. And then caffeine, people, not everyone is not all people are very responsive to caffeine, but most are. And so they've done studies where even having consumed caffeine within 6 hours before bed, it disrupted those people's sleep. So you really want to keep your coffee, tea, chocolate, anything that you might be having that's an over-the-counter medication, if it has caffeine in it, you want to do that at least 6 hours before bed. And then lastly, our electronics. So being on your phone, watching TV, being on a device, the light from the screen, it interrupts the release of melatonin like we talked about. So your brain gets these disruptive signals and it may not release melatonin, so you'll have a harder time falling asleep.
Yeah, and that may not be true for everybody.
It may not be true for everybody.
I mean, because I am frequently watching something in bed and then turn it off and I'm out.
Yeah,
but it can. Anything else?
Yeah, so the last thing I think will be the topic on what can you do for people who are struggling with this issue. So the one thing is you want to get clarity. So we've talked about that before in this show. So keeping a sleep journal, this might sound kind of funny, but for 2 weeks, every morning you keep a sleep journal, and what you want to write down is the time you went to bed, the time you actually fell asleep, how many times you woke up, if you stayed awake for a long period of time, how many naps you took each day, how long did they last, any medications you used, alcohol, caffeine, or food when you did that. And you really want to get some information. What affected your sleep and how well did you sleep? If you do that for 2 weeks, it's really interesting what you will find, and you can get some clarity.
Good idea.
Yep. And then the other thing is keeping a good, consistent evening routine. We like routine. Our bodies like the predictable. So you want to do the same thing every night. Your body knows, oh, this is sleep time, and it winds itself down.
Got it.
Exercising regularly, but you want to, exercise really helps with sleep, but you want to do it in the afternoon or in the morning. Doing vigorous exercise before bed is not helpful. You could obviously do something like a gentle yoga or some stretching, but you don't want to get your body all revved up. Again, it gives it the wrong signaling. Setting a goal. You talk about setting goals. You actually, it's powerful for your brain. Just say, I am going to set a goal. I'm going to sleep 7 hours every night. Just put that intention out there. Tell your brain it's going to happen. See what happens.
Look, I love setting goals. I do it all the time, but I have never thought about setting a sleep goal.
I know, it's pretty cool. You can set a sleep goal.
Yeah, like I'm going to sleep 7 hours tonight.
And then a bedtime routine, especially if you're having a hard time going to sleep. You think about how we sleep train babies. We are no different, really. Our bodies are just like a grown baby body. That you're really doing something that your body knows sleep is coming. You might take a bath, you might take a shower. There's a certain, people use lavender or a certain scent, a certain feel of what you wear to bed. You know, anything you can think of that you do, certain music you listen to, maybe the same thing you might read before bed every night. Anything that you can do that gives your body a predictable cueing. And you want to do it about an hour before you're planning on going to bed. And so your body kind of starts to wind down and that melatonin level gets high enough and you can fall asleep.
Yeah, I think something that I do personally is I listen to ocean waves at night, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's a cue for my body, like, okay, it's time to go to sleep.
Yeah. So the one last thing on our last 10 seconds is
Yes.
It is not true that you can catch up on sleep. Your body needs sleep every single night for all of those things. It doesn't wait until the next, till the weekend to consolidate those memories from the day. So you cannot catch up on sleep. You have to do it each night.
All right. You heard her. Get out there and get some sleep and be a source of kindness, be a source of contribution. You've got something to offer this world. We believe in you.